If your child comes back from the other parent's house and they feel different, quieter, more guarded, more anxious, or they look you in the eye and say something that doesn't even sound like them, like they're repeating a script, I want you to hear me clearly. This is not just co-parenting stress, and it's not you being dramatic. It might be a child adapting to emotional manipulation. And yes, in some cases, emotional abuse. And the reason this is so hard is because emotional abuse doesn't always look like yelling. Sometimes it looks like closeness. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it looks like the other parent being the fun parent while quietly rewriting the child's reality. So, let me ask you a question that I know a lot of safe parents are afraid to say out loud. Have you ever had that moment where you think, I'm watching my child change and I don't know how to stop it? If you're comfortable, just type here in the chat so I know I'm talking to the right parents today. And if you're watching this on a replay, because this will be available for replay, just type replay. So before we jump in, I want you to take a breath. Because today I'm going to give you a map, not a list of random symptoms. So I want you to begin by picturing a road. Your child is on that road right now because the current situation is what it is. They're moving between two homes, and in one home, they are being exposed to emotional manipulation. Your child did not choose that road. They're just living inside it. And up ahead, the road splits into 3 forks, 3 paths that kids commonly drift into in this kind of dynamic. The situation stays the same, but the path your child starts traveling down can look very different. And your home, your regulation, your consistency, your steadiness can be the difference between your child getting pulled deeper into confusion or finding their way towards resilience. If that image makes sense, just type map in the chat so I know this is resonating with you. And if you're already thinking, I don't want to do this alone, a link to book a strategy session is in the description. By the end of this live, you'll know which path your child is leaning towards and what to do in your home to guide them towards resilience. And I want you to stay with me all the way through path 3, because path 3 is where the relief is. Path 3 is where you're going to learn how to become the anchor that protects your child's inner world, even if the manipulation in the other home doesn't stop. And because this is a live launch, I want you to know that this isn't a one-time conversation. I'll be posting a new video every week moving forward. Short, practical teachings like this. So if this topic matters to you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And I want you to know that I'm also not just sharing all of this from theory. I'm Dr. Naaila Hudani. I have a PhD in child development, and my work has always focused on how parents shape a child's emotional world, how kids build safety, self-trust, and resilience. But I'm also a bonus parent, and that means I've seen this up close and in real life. The particular kind of pain that comes from watching a child be emotionally abused by someone who's trying to gain control over that child's world. I've supported many parents through this professionally as well. And what I can tell you is this: when emotional manipulation is happening in the other home, it often doesn't show up as something loud or obvious. It shows up as subtle shifts. A child who comes back a little bit changed, a nervous system that is on edge, a kid who's carrying pressure that they don't have words for yet. It's quiet, it's confusing, and it's incredibly easy to miss if you're only looking for overt harm. If you've ever felt like you're the only one seeing the shift, type I see it in the chat. Just I see it. because I see you. And before we go any further, if you're listening to this and already thinking, this is my life, I need support, I need someone who actually gets this dynamic, I do offer strategy sessions. It's a private conversation where I'll ask you a few questions to understand your situation, what you're seeing in your child, what's feeling the hardest right now, and what outcome you're really hoping for, so we can see if my program is the right fit for you. One quick note so you don't waste your time booking something that isn't the right match. My work is best suited for parents of younger kids, typically under the age of 12, who still have contact and consistent access to their child through shared parenting time. If your child is a teenager, or if they've been fully alienated from you, or the current dynamic doesn't give you access, I just want you to know, and I want to be really honest, that this specific support may not be the best fit for where you are right now. Okay, so if that sounds like a situation that does fit you, you can book through the link in the description. And if you're listening today, if you catch yourself thinking, okay, that's exactly my child, that's usually a sign not to do this alone. Now stay with me, because the clarity that you're about to get today is going to help you feel grounded again in this chaos. So let's start with the current situation, the starting point before the fork. Before we talk about the paths, we do have to name the environment. If you are co-parenting with someone who is emotionally manipulative, who uses emotionally abusive dynamics, your child is living in a home where love and reality can feel conditional. And emotional abuse in co-parenting contexts often includes tactics like gaslighting, lying, love bombing, parentification, enmeshment, triangulation, guilt conditioning, and reality distortion. That's a lot. So I'm going to go through and define these by their impact on the child. And I want to name this very clearly. Whether you call your co-parent a narcissist, toxic, high conflict, or you recognize the coercive control patterns, we will be focusing on the behaviors and what they do to your child, because that's where really your power lies. Gaslighting is when a child's reality is constantly questioned. You're remembering it wrong. That didn't happen. You're too sensitive. Over time, your child starts distrusting their own perception. Lying and reality distortion is when your child is told things that don't match their lived experience. Your mom doesn't care about you, your dad abandoned us, or the child is told an entire story about you that doesn't align with their experience when they're actually with you. Love bombing can look like over-the-top attention, gifts, special treatment. We have secrets, you're my favorite. And then, and this is the key part, withdrawal or punishment when the child doesn't comply. So the child learns closeness is not safe. Closeness is a transaction. Parentification is when the child is placed in an adult role emotionally. They become a therapist, a mediator, a caretaker. They're managing adult emotions that aren't theirs to hold. Enmeshment is closely related. And I want to slow down here because enmeshment is one of the most misunderstood. Enmeshment is when the boundaries between parent and child are blurred. The child isn't allowed to be separate. The child becomes the parent's emotional partner in a way that looks like closeness, but feels like obligation. And it can sound like, you're all I have. You understand me better than anyone. Don't leave me. Or even subtle versions like the child feeling responsible for whether the parent is okay. And then there's triangulation, which is when the child is pulled into the middle, asked to deliver messages, asked to take sides, asked to report back, or making them feel like they're betraying one parent by loving the other parent. And here's what I want you to hear. The tactics can be constant. The child's response is what changes. And that's where the 3 paths that I shared come in. So a quick check-in without naming anyone. What are you seeing the most often right now? Just type a number in the chat. 1, if you're seeing gaslighting or reality distortion. 2, if you're seeing loyalty pressure or triangulation. 3, if you're seeing enmeshment or parentification. Or if you want to drop one word that resonates, go ahead and do that. And if you're not sure, you can also type unclear, and that's information too for us to work with. So before we go into the 3 paths, I do want to address something that a lot of parents have been commenting on recently. And I really, really understand why you guys are asking this. A lot of parents are saying, how do we get the courts to see this? How do we change the system so that this is taken seriously? And listen, legal reform matters. I'm not dismissing that for a second, but I want to be clear about my lane. I work at the level of the child's inner world, helping the emotionally safe parent protect emotional development and resilience, even when the system falls short. And here's why I'm so firm about that. When we put all our energy into getting the courts to validate what we're seeing, we can accidentally give our power away to a system that we cannot control. And meanwhile, your child is adapting in real time. Their nervous system is learning what love, safety, and truth mean. So today, I'm going to keep us centered on what you can control, how you can show up, how you parent, how you protect your child's inner world, because that is where you can have the impact right now. And part of why I'm so focused on what we can do at home is because the legal threshold is often shockingly high. I was once told by a lawyer very bluntly something like, unless a parent locks a gay child in a room and says, you can't come out until you stop being gay, it usually won't meet the threshold for emotional abuse. And as a child development expert, that feels outrageous to me. Because what the legal system often considers abuse doesn't always match how children actually experience harm. So here's what I consider emotionally abusive patterns based on decades of developmental science, because I want you to feel grounded in your reality right now. If a parent tells a child, your other parent hit you when you were a baby, when no such event occurred, that's reality distortion. If a parent repeatedly calls the other home dangerous or disgusting, now the child is sleeping in fear in one of their own homes. If a parent says, your other parent's car might crash, now the child is scared at every pickup. If a parent teaches, don't tell your other parent what I said, or they'll take you away, that's coercive control. If a parent insists, this is your real home, the other home is just a place you visit, that's an attempt to sever belonging. These patterns are designed to confuse the child, isolate them, and reshape trust. And yes, many times they don't meet the courtroom standard for action, but they absolutely stress and dysregulate the child's nervous system. So today, we are not waiting for a system to agree with us. We're going to read what the child is showing us and respond in a way that protects their development, because your child needs you regulated now. They need you anchored now. And what you do next can change the path that they go down. Now that we've named that, let's talk about the first path. Path 1 is when the child becomes confused, anxious, and takes the internalized path. This is the path where the child turns their stress inwards. And for a lot of safe parents, this is the one that feels most heartbreaking, because it looks like your child is fading. They come back from transitions quieter. They seem tense in their body. They might be clingy, but not emotionally open. Or they might isolate. They might start saying, I don't know, to everything, not because they don't know, but because knowing starts feeling dangerous for them. Because if their reality is corrected over and over, the safest answer is, I don't know. And under 12, this often shows up through the body. Stomach aches, headaches, sleep disruptions, nightmares, potty regressions, big emotional outbursts that seem to come out of nowhere. And let's quickly pause on that. Because if you're the safe parent, you may have been told like that's normal adjustment. And sometimes it is, especially if there's been other big changes too, like the parent separation, a new home, a new school, a new routine. But in an emotionally unsafe dynamic, those symptoms can be stress responses to emotional pressure, especially if they are clustered around transitions. So, quick check in. If your child's stress shows up mostly in their body, such as like sleep, stomach aches, headaches, go ahead and type body in the chat. And if it shows up more in behaviors such as like meltdowns or shutdowns, type behavior in the chat. And I'll give you one of the most common tells I see in Path 1. A child comes back and the first 24 hours are messy. Not because the child is bad, not because you've somehow lost all of the progress that you've built in your home, but because their nervous system is fired up. Again, there's the stomach aches, headaches, sleep disruptions, big emotions, clinginess, shut down. And what's happening is the child's body is doing what their mouth can't do safely. It is signaling stress. So when the safe parent stops treating it like misbehavior or a mystery to solve and starts treating it like a stress response to emotional pressure, your whole approach changes. And that change, your calm, your predictability, your lack of pressure, becomes the beginning of resilience. If you've seen that first 24-hour crash, go ahead and type 24 in the chat. Now, there's something very important about Path 1. A child on Path 1 may still love both parents. They may still want connection with you, but they're confused and they're anxious. And they're learning very quietly that their feelings are inconvenient. So they swallow them. And if you're watching this thinking, that's my child, I want you to take a breath and just type that's us in the chat. Not because I need your story, just so you can name it for yourself. Because your child isn't weak. They are adapting. Now let's talk about Path 2. And this one is the one that scares parents the most. So if you've ever had the fear that I'm losing my child, don't click away, stay with me. Because underneath Path 2 will change how you interpret what's happening, and it will protect how you respond next. By the way, if you are realizing I'm seeing the signs, but I don't know what to do next, the next step is a strategy session. It's a conversation to understand what's happening in your situation, see if my program is the right fit for you. The link to do that is in the description. So now let's talk about Path 2, because this is where a lot of parents panic and accidentally push the dynamic harder, and I want to help you avoid that. Path 2 is when the child begins to align with the manipulative parent and rejects the safe parent. This is the path where the child's adaptation becomes visible in the relationship. How they connect with you, how they talk to you, how they respond to you. Meaning, instead of turning their pain inward, the child aligns with the emotionally unsafe parent as a survival strategy. And often, this is the part that hurts the most. The child begins rejecting the safe parent. This can look like sudden coldness, contempt, eye rolling, refusing hugs, refusing routines that you used to share, refusing to talk to your side of the family, or saying accusations that feel too grown up for them. And you're sitting there thinking, where is this coming from? One of the biggest signs here is what I call borrowed language. The child starts saying things like, Dad says you don't care about me. Mom says you only care about yourself. Or the one that stops parents in their tracks, I'm not allowed to love you. Let's pause on that. When a child says, I'm not allowed to love you, this is not a preference. It is pressure. It is emotional coercion. The impact to the child is that they are beginning the process of a loyalty bind. If you've ever heard a version of that, or you feel that is coming in your near future, type pressure in the chat. But I want to go even deeper, because this is a question that I hear all the time. Can a loyalty bind show up in more than one path? Yes, it can. Loyalty binds can exist in both path 1 and path 2. So, what makes path 2 different? Path 2 is when the child resolves the loyalty bind by choosing a side, often the side that feels the most emotionally dangerous to displease. Because emotionally unsafe parents can create an environment where displeasing them has consequences. They withdraw, guilt, rage, crying, victimhood. Or the child becomes responsible for that parent's emotional stability, especially in the case of enmeshment. And in that kind of system, the child learns, if I align with this parent, I stay safe. And the safest move might be to reject you, not because you're unsafe, but because you're the least likely to punish them for it. Let me say that again. Children often reject the safe parent because the safe parent is the only relationship that is sturdy enough to survive the rejection. That doesn't make it hurt any less, but it changes what you do next. So here's an example. A parent came to me absolutely heartbroken because their child started coming home and saying things like, "You don't love me." And when the parent would say, "Of course I love you," the child would double down, "You're lying." And the parent started to panic and started trying to prove their love through explaining, overgiving, over asking questions, trying to win the child back through logic. But the more they tried to convince, the more the child hardened. And what we realized was this: the child was not asking for proof. The child was testing safety. They were saying, if I reject you, will you collapse? Will you rage? Will you make me responsible for your feelings? Will you pressure me to choose? And once the safe parent stopped interrogating and started anchoring, the child started softening over time. Not instantly, but consistently. Because consistency is what truly breaks that spell. Now, I want to be very honest with you. Path 2 can trigger the safe parent's deepest fear. I am losing my child. And that fear can make you do things that accidentally reinforce path 2, like speaking badly about the other parent to the child, or demanding loyalty, or emotionally unloading, or making the child the container for your pain. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm saying it because you deserve to know what actually works in this situation. Which brings us to path 3. And path 3 is not about changing the other parent. Path 3 is about the safe parent becoming so anchored that the child's nervous system has a place to return to that is grounded in reality. Path 3 is the resilient path, even when the manipulation doesn't stop. Before I give you path 3 steps, go ahead and type path 3 in the chat if that's what you want. Just path 3. Because this micro commitment matters. Consistency is the whole game here. This is the path where the child builds emotional resilience, self-trust, emotional literacy, a sense of identity that isn't dependent on pleasing someone, and secure connection with you as a safe parent. And yes, this matters because the emotionally manipulative behaviors may not stop. The weather may stay the same, but your home becomes the shelter. And I want to anchor this path 3 in something that you already know deep down. Your child doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be regulated. They need you to be consistent. They need you to not add burden. Because these dynamics, the child is already carrying so much of that burden. Okay, here's what we can start doing in your home today. First, you become the emotional anchor, especially after transitions. Instead of big interrogations, you create a predictable landing space. Whether that's a snack, a bath, a quiet activity, the same rhythm every time. You're teaching your child's nervous system, you're safe now. I know that might sound small, but it is a game changer because kids don't regulate through logic. They regulate through patterned safety. Second, you stop chasing the story and start holding the emotion. If your child says, "Mom says you don't care about me," the instinct is to defend, to explain, to prove. But path 3 parenting sounds like this. That sounds really confusing. That sounds like a lot to hold. In this house, you never have to wonder if you matter to me. And then you stop. You don't overtalk. You don't push for more. You let your child be calm and show them your calm as evidence that they are okay. Let's pause here. This is where most parents, safe parents, get stuck because they think if I don't correct it, it becomes true. But what makes manipulation powerful is not the statement. It's the nervous system experience of pressure. So we respond to pressure with safety. Third, you plant seeds of self-trust. This is one of the most protective things you can do for a child being manipulated, gaslit, or enmeshed, because those dynamics teach the child to outsource their inner knowing. So we start rebuilding it in everyday moments, not by saying your other parent is manipulating you. No, we don't do that. We do it by teaching your child to notice what is authentic inside of them. Here's what that looks like in real life. You start asking very gently, what do you think? What feels true to you? What does your body feel like when something feels yucky or confusing? What did you notice in your heart when that happened? And you normalize that confusion is a signal, not a flaw. You teach them language like, sometimes people use tricky behaviors. Sometimes people say things to get a reaction. Sometimes love can feel big, but make you feel responsible. And that's where you can introduce the concept of manipulation in very age-appropriate ways, without ever naming the other parent. You can use examples from shows, books, playground situations, and you ask, what do you think was happening there? This builds critical thinking without making your child feel like they are betraying anyone. So let me ask you a gentle question. If your child could fully trust their inner compass again, what would change for them first? Would it be their connection to you, their mood, their sleep? Go ahead and type that into the chat. Fourth, you protect your child from emotional enmeshment by modeling healthy boundaries. If your child is being pulled into adult emotional responsibility in the other home, then in your home, you practice the very opposite. You do not vent to your child. You do not make your child your confidant. You do not make them responsible for your loneliness. Instead, you show them adults handle adult feelings. Kids get to be kids. And if you need support, you get that from other adults. That alone is resilience training. Fifth, be consistent. Your child doesn't need perfect words. They need a consistent message delivered with a regulated nervous system behind it. You are safe here. You're loved. You don't have to choose sides with me. And you can trust yourself. And you repeat that calmly again and again. Because none of this works in one perfect moment. It works through repetition. And what you're building in your home is real. It's safety. It's identity. It's a child who can grow up and say, I trust myself. And if you're listening thinking, but I've already made these mistakes, I've already panicked, I've already interrogated, go ahead and take a breath. Repair matters more than perfection. You can always come back to center. You can always say, I'm sorry I pushed you earlier. You don't have to talk. I'm here. And that is path 3. Now, I want to bring this home with a simple truth. You cannot fully shield your child from the behaviors of an emotionally unsafe parent. But you can provide a safe emotional space, and your emotional strength becomes a buffer. The more grounded you are, the more your child can process their feelings and build resilience against the manipulation. And I want to add something here because be grounded sounds like a mindset phrase. Kids don't experience you through your words first, they experience you through your energy. So if you're trying to act calm, but your body is bracing for the next thing, if you're saying the right things, but inside you're panicking, your child can feel that because their nervous system is constantly scanning for safety. And if you want the science behind this, one of the main stress hormones in the body is cortisol. When a parent is living in chronic stress, always on high alert, flooded with cortisol, the child's nervous system rises to match that environment. So when I say be grounded, I don't mean pretend. I mean regulate your body. Actually return to center. Because your regulated nervous system is one of the safest messages that a child can receive. And if you already know that you want support with this, the link to book a strategy session is in the description. Now, that's a lot. So let's regulate together for a moment because this is alive and I know a lot of emotions are probably coming up. So I want you to close your eyes if you are able to. Unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders, relax your body, and take one slow breath in and a longer breath out. Now, visualize the parent that you want to be. Picture yourself responding to your child with love, patience, and strength, no matter what comes through the door after a transition. See yourself as a source of emotional safety and stability. Not because you control everything, but because you control what happens here. What would that feel like for you? If you want, go ahead and drop one word in the chat that describes the parent that you're choosing to be in this. Just one word. Steady, calm, anchored, whatever is true for you. And if you want support, not just information, if you want to be guided through this so you're not piecing it together alone, go ahead and book a strategy session with me. We'll talk about what's happening right now, where you feel stuck, what your child is showing you, and what you want the outcome to be, so we can see if my program is the right next step. The link is in the description. Because you're not powerless here. Path 1 and Path 2 are signals for you. And with consistency, regulation, and the right support, you can guide your child towards Path 3, the resilient path. Stay steady, stay consistent, keep becoming the anchor. You're building something real. I'll see you soon.